Welcome to People Love Process. This movie is now our 8th episode. I believe it's 8th. Yes, our 8th episode of Over the Shoulder Vector Building, raw and unedited. What do I mean by raw and unedited? Because at times, if a certain segment's going to extend the watch time more than what I really like, then I may do a time lapse when I go to put the final video together. And in that case, we might be doing it for this artwork. And for this movie, I'm going to take an old sketch of a monster character. It was for a client several years back, and I was going through my archive of projects, and I always keep physical material in a folder, and then I archive them. Then after a certain period of time, I tend to purge those. But I found this sketch and I liked it, and I had never done anything with it. So we're going to build out the sketch artwork you see in front of you. And so it'll start with the base vectors. Then we're going to get into coloring and how I handle detail. Now, this isn't a super complex character, so hopefully we can pull it off within a reasonable amount of time. But I'll make that decision as I start building it. Worst case scenario, I'll organize the video by chapter, so there will be a build period. And you could watch part of that. If you didn't want to watch all of it, you can skip ahead to the coloring and detail, because that's where a lot of I think the most interesting kind of teachable moments are going to be anyway. So we're going to start on this, and all my sketches like this. Oh, and by the way, the inset video that you're seeing, I think I got the syncing problem figured out. I had the frame rate set too high for the camera, and so it was causing syncing problems. I think that's resolved now. I've done tests, and it looks like it is. But once again, we'll see. I'm no video expert when it comes to this stuff. I usually, when I do things for LinkedIn Learning, they have a whole team that's working with me, and they're the ones that make sure all that technical stuff is done right. So I'm learning as I go, learning a new bit of software to edit video, to improve that as well. DaVinci Resolve is the one that I'm learning. So eventually I'll start using that instead of what I've been using up to this point. So we'll just select this sketch. I usually scan my sketches in about 600 to 800 ppi, place them on a layer, adjust the opacity, lock that layer, and then a layer above it, usually the build layer. When I create a new file, this is what my layers show. So I don't have to always recreate those. I have a new document profile. It loads all these base colors. These are all global colors as denoted by the white triangle in the bottom right-hand corner. That makes coloring easier. And so we're just going to jump right into it. I'll go to my graphic styles and I'll select a way to line. And I usually start at the easiest place. In this case, it's the eyes, because they're just elliptical shapes. So we'll go ahead and create a shape here. What size is this stroke? I think we'll go down to 0.5, like that. I want the pupils on these eyes to be perfect. Then I'll just clone it. Command-C, Command-F. If you use the contextual menu bar, by the way, that's a newer feature. I pointed it out, taskbar, not menu bar. It has a duplicate on it. And so with an object selected, a vector object, you can click the duplicate button and it'll do the exact same thing as my clone. I just find it gets in the way where it positions itself. So I turn it off. But if you like it and that helps you, then by all means, use that. All of us need to figure out what works best for our own creative process. And there's a lot of things that Adobe shoves into the apps that I don't find very useful. They're really good at pushing out new products that at first are seemingly useful until you go to try it and you go, what the hell are they thinking? It's like, this isn't, this is just bad. Like Intertwine's a good example. it'll save you a little time to mock something up to test something. That's fine. But bottom line, you're still going to have to build it manually to create clean vector artwork. So if you're designing a monogram, for example, you'd never want to send them an intertwined usage file because it has all these hideous masks in it to pull off the look and feel, but it's really not clean art. And I kind of went out of my way to ask one of the head engineers on Illustrator. I'm just adjusting that eye because I don't want it perfect. He's a monster. His pupils, I want to keep those the same. I'll just cheat and kind of copy this, bring this one. I think I want this one a little smaller, like that. And then we can just resize this and go from it. We don't need to recreate the wheel all the time. Talked to an engineer and said, well, could you make it so like a button shows up on the property panel and it says expand intertwine? And he goes, and it would build it out like the way you'd manually do it? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, yeah. And I go, then that's what you should do. And then it became a political thing. Well, I don't know if they had approved that and this. I'm like, oh, okay. So it has nothing to do with what's going to help the end user. It's what's efficient for Adobe, and they can hype it. The real hypers, all these people on social media, check out this new feature. It's gets so irritating, especially with the text to vector. That was a complete joke. Text to clip art is what I call it. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I had this nose. Well, I'll try putting the bend in the nose. Why not? He's a monster. He doesn't have to be perfect like that. This will come to a point. These are easy. I can create those curves with the Bezier handles. Then I'll go up here and close it. Go back to this. This is why I like using PathScribe, because it gives me ghost handles and I can pull them out so I don't have to fiddle around with an additional tool. Now, if you don't have a plugin like VectorScribe that provides these ghost handles like this, then you're not going to see that in Illustrator, in which case you'd have to switch from the if you're using the direct selection tool and go to the anchor point tool, then you can grab a path and you can bend it. As soon as you do that, it gives you access to the handles. Then you can pull it out. So it's not that you're not able to do it natively in Illustrator. It's just not as intuitive or easy as using a plugin. That's why I use plugins. I'll make this bend in up there. I think that looks okay. Here's once again, I like showing you these plugins because I don't get to show all these when I do courses on LinkedIn because they're all concerned about having non-native tools. Well, I'll show you both ways here. Take the pen tool and I click, don't need to worry about the curve. Then I go back and click again. What we've done is we've closed a shape. It looks like a path, but you can grab the anchor point tool, grab the path, and you can see it's actually a closed shape. We can adjust these if we want to. We can grab this with the anchor point tool and distort it just to get this nice little kind of wedge crease shape. Notice it wants to snap. That's because I have Smart Guides turned on. And Smart Guides helps to build at times, but at times it can get in the way like this and snap when you don't want it to. So Command U to turn it off. That way you can make these micro adjustments and it won't try to snap to a previous path. So that's how you could create it natively, or you could use a plugin. Let's go to this tool, Arch by Points. This is part of Subscribe that Astute Graphics makes. I can go click. Oops, it's kicking into its circle. It does this at times. Okay, let's click off, click back on. It's only supposed to be an arch, but sometimes it gets locked into one of the other tools in the same panel. Like that, then click, and you can adjust it like that. So I tend to use, since I discovered this tool within their plugins, I tend to use this to make these kind of arches just because the process goes faster. But see how it does this? even software companies have little bugs in it. And I pointed this out to Astute, but it seems to still be within this specific tool. They'll click in at times. It's not huge. It's just a little bit annoying. So there's the nose. That works great. Let's go ahead and we'll just create the same type of shape to make up his cheek here. Grab the anchor point tool. Then we can adjust it. Take the Bezier handle, adjust that. And there was a story I was thinking about the other day that I needed to tell you guys, but now I can't remember. If I remember, I'll tell you it. Monsters are always fun to create, though. The original monster for this, it was for I forget, some local library in some town somehow found me, and I did they were doing like a summer book reading thing for kids, and they wanted the mascot for it to be a book monster, to be a monster who loves reading books. And I thought that was kind of fun. So we'll turn Smart Guides back on, Command U, because I want to be able to snap on this path. And then we'll snap on this path. Then as it comes down, we'll probably have an anchor point right about here. And then we'll close this shape. And so the monster that I ended up doing for that is kind of like this one, but he was holding a book, and there's all these stacks of books around him. Not a big pain project. It was, I think it was the librarian who contacted me, and I gave him a deal. I just thought it was I like the reading. I remember growing up, I was part of our local library's reading club during the summer to read so many books. And originally when my mom plugged me into that, I wasn't like, whatever. It's like, but, it's part of one of the reasons why I love to read so much now. I made a goal about 12 years ago that over the next decade, I was going to read, my goal was to read 200 books in 10 years. And then it was like 11 years later, and I realized, I kind of forgot how many books I wanted to read, and I wasn't sure where I was at. So I logged into my account and checked it out, and lo and behold, I'd read over 400 books, and I've done a lot more since then. So, reading's awesome. I love an old quote that goes, when you read, you put on someone else's head. And that's very true, because most of the books out there are based off of the experience or imagination of someone else. Of course, it depends on what genre you're reading. If it's fiction, then it's going to be their imagination. But if it's nonfiction, like, for example, I love reading historical nonfiction. I'm going through a book, a book by David McAuliffe, who's a great history writer. His book, 1776, was awesome. And I learned more about U.S. history in that book than I ever did, going to school. We really should not have won the Revolutionary War. It's quite surprising based off of everything that happened. This is where Command U will do that to turn off snapping, because it's wanting to keep snapping to those. So I'm creating these with this subscribe plugin, but let's go ahead and create some just with the pen tool. Anyway, 1776, one of the stories about the Revolutionary War is all of these Minutemen, which were just farmers and everybody fighting the British, who were trying to take control of our territory so they could tax us, because they were still pissed off that we threw the tea in the harbor because we didn't want to pay tax on it, which, in all honesty, wasn't unreasonable for the British to do that because we got in a war, and in that war we asked the British to help us, and they sent their troops. Well, they were trying to recoup their costs. So in that respect, historically, we should have paid the tax on that because they actually helped us. So part of it, nothing is crystal clear with history or as pure and driven as you read in a history book. There's a lot of gray areas, a lot of uncomfortable facts, I guess you could put it. But what a great book. One of my favorite stories from the book was the Minutemen. They knew the British were in Boston. They had access to a cannon. Think of a huge iron cannon weighing, I don't know, a couple tons maybe, probably more than that. I'm not sure. But what did the Minutemen decide to do? Well, we need to take that down and drag it up the hill overseeing Boston and start taking pot shots at the British. I mean, it's just amazing. So what'd they do? They manually, they didn't have a horse to do it with. They manually pulled it from whatever town it was in all the way across the landscape. And you think it's not like they had precision roads back then. We hadn't even started settling westward into the Ohio territory at that point. So it's not like we had highways and byways that were impeccably, manicured so they could do that. But somehow they brought it all through a forested area up to the top of the hill. So by the next morning, and just keep in mind, they had to bring all the cannonballs. Those aren't lightweight either. And the powder and everything else needed to fire a cannon. And then they drug it up on top of this hill. And so by the next morning, they're able to take pot shots at the British. And that's what helped drive them out of Boston. It was an unbelievable story. And other stories like Valley Forge and if the British in Valley Forge would have just sent out a few more troops, we would have lost that battle. And the fact that they didn't is kind of a miracle, because if we would have lost that, we might have lost everything. Might have been speaking British. I might have a British accent right now. Who knows? I don't know. I find history fascinating. I've learned more about history through reading. That's why I love reading. I love all kinds of genres. Of course, I have my favorite authors for nonfiction. David McCall is one of them. I'm reading another book of his right now about the Panama Canal. Boy, that's an interesting story. I didn't even know it was the French who were starting to try to do the Panama Canal, and then their political system got so corrupted with payoffs and stuff that it never happened. So the U.S. came in, bought their infrastructure out, and decided we were going to do it instead. And then there's all kinds of political upheaval in the United States with regards to that as well, and some politicians who are corrupt. It showed me that, the more things change, the more they remain the same, because corrupt politicians, boy, I never heard that before. That's been the case throughout history. So anyway, really good book. It's called The Pathway Between Two Seas. If you don't like history and learning, wading through the whole narrative to get those little jewels of information, you might not like it. I like that kind of stuff. I can zone out on that, and as I'm listening to it, it's like a movie running through my head. And that's the best part of when iTunes years ago came out with audiobooks. We'll select these teeth and unite them all together. Make sure, because this is going to be a group, so I make sure it's a compound. Make a copy of the mouth, copy it, select this, and intersect to trim off the top part. That'll work. So we got his mouth, the inside of his mouth, shapes. We'll work on the body now. So what was I talking about? I was talking about, iTunes. So when iTunes came out with audiobooks, I'd always wanted to try an audiobook, but I'm like, I'm not going to buy, 8 CDs for an audiobook? No, thanks. I thought it was a little expensive too, so I never did, but it intrigued me. I always wanted to read a Grisham book, but I never could get around to, one, buying a physical book, and then two, finding the time to read it. And then when I saw that that Apple had audiobooks, I go, okay, I'm going to download one of these Grisham books. I believe it was The Firm, which I think was his second book that he did. I think the first book he ever wrote was, I believe it was The Pelican Brief was the first book he ever wrote, and he didn't get any takers or publishers. And then he immediately started on his next one, didn't let seeming failure kind of stop him from creating, which is a good lesson for anybody who does anything creative. Let's go ahead and turn this into a smooth. I'll click so we get the anchor handle on the other side. Then I'll come up here and finesse it. He wrote The Firm, and this was why he was a full-time attorney still. And so he wrote at night, late into the night, and pitched it once he got done with The Firm, and a publisher picked up on it, and then after that, a movie studio bought it, and then after that movie came out, I remember seeing that movie, it had Tom Cruise in it for The Firm. They said, hey, what other things have you done? Well, I did The Pelican Brief, and then that one had, what's the actress's name? Did that one have, I can't remember her name. She's in the new Netflix movie that the Obamas produced. Julia Roberts, is that her name? I think that's her name. That's who was in The Pelican Brief with, I believe, Denzel Washington was the other star in that movie. And it was a pretty good movie. And ever since, all of his books have been bestsellers eventually. Well, when I first bought my first audiobook and I listened to it, it freaked me out because I had the exact same sensory experience as if I was physically reading. Meaning, as I started listening to the book, my head and the way my brain pictured visuals, it felt like I was reading, but I wasn't physically reading. And at first it's like, whoa, this is weird. But then I go, this is cool. And that was awesome. That was just really awesome. And I've been a diehard Audible fan ever since. I love Audible. It's great. They have a pretty good return policy too. So sometimes I'll get into the book, and the unfortunate thing is some of the narrators, some do a really awesome job, and other ones not so great. So sometimes that makes it really hard to get into a book. So, but that said, they'll let you return it. If you don't like it, then you get your credit back. So I think that's pretty good customer service. So why am I building it like this on the bottom? Because I want to have areas that overlap. And so I'm just thinking about what will be the base shape, and then I can create other shapes from that. And you know what? I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go all the way up here to this one, then go to that point, and then go somewhere like this and close it. I'm not trying to carry on a conversation and tell a story when I'm working. Usually I'm listening to an audiobook. But that was really cool. And from that point forward, I've voraciously have done a lot of books. I don't know. My mom was a big book reader. Of course, they didn't have audiobooks back then, but she would tell me stories about some of the characters, and I thought it was interesting, but as a kid, you don't appreciate that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I started reading where a couple of my favorite authors, Michael McConaughey, no, McConaughey, that's the actor. Michael Connolly, he was a crime beat reporter for the LA Times. And then he wrote on the side, like most writers start off as. And because he reported on crime stories when he worked for the LA Times, his character is an LA homicide detective by the name of Hieronymus Bosch. Amazon now does the Bosch series, which are a good adaptation. I think the books are better, but they're good too. Craig Johnson's another author I really like. Craig Johnson writes a series called Longmire. And again, that was, that tool is being buggy. I'm going to have to kind of tell Astute about that, see if they could fix that. He wrote a series, and his character is a sheriff called Walt Longmire, and but it's all set in Wyoming and kind of near reservations. So his best friend is a Native American. It's just really, really cool. Another great book, great character development. I mean, his sub-sheriff, or I don't know what you call the position in law enforcement, but her name's Vic. She's hilarious, a little bit foul-mouthed, but hilarious nonetheless. And they casted her perfect in the series on TV. Oh, what's the actress's name? The actress with the blonde hair who is in Battlestar Galactica. I can't remember her name. She plays that part, and she's perfect in the role on TV. Totally the kind of person I saw in my mind when I read his books. His books are really good, though. Really, really, really good. Another one is who's another author I like? James Lee Burke. Unbelievable writer. One of the most gifted authors I've ever read. His descriptions are just jaw-droppingly insightful, funny, and just word perfect. So he's describing these two guys fighting in his book one time, and one of the bad guys has the other guy held down to the ground, and he's talking to him like face to face. And he describes the guy's breath as a warm stack of pennies. And as soon as I read that, I go, I totally know what, I can totally smell that, is when I was reading it. I go, wow, that's like, I just love his descriptions. It's funny because I took a writing class one time with an author offered. And one of the things she's talking about in one of her classes was descriptive language as you're writing. And she made the comment, you don't want to overdo your descriptive language. You want to simplify it. And I'm going, I raise my hand. What about James Lee Burke? That's what I like about him, is he gets so into his descriptive language. And then her comment, I thought was equally smart and honest, is that she said, oh, well, yeah, James Lee Burke, he's so good, he can do anything he wants. And that just told me, okay, so there's rules, but you can break them if you can do a good job at it. And I think the same is true with graphic design and, for that matter, illustration. Break the rules. Okay, I'm going to take this shape now, and I'm just going to copy it. Command-C, Command-F. We'll go ahead and color it blue so You can see it's different. And I'm just going to grab the scissor tool. Oop, turn on keyboard shortcuts so I can snap. I'm going to cut there and cut there. So why did I do this? Because I want this shape to be independent of the background shape. And here's a really cool tool by Astute that I don't use all the time, but when I need it, like here, I want to continue as if this line went up here. Well, if I just grab that handle and move it, it's going to ruin this curve. But this allows you to continue that geometry. Eventually, you'll get to a point that you can see it wants to turn around because of the math involved. And I'll just stop it before there, and we'll go over this one. I'll pull this one out like that. Actually, let's click on this. I'm going to zoom in on this one. And this is where, okay, see how it's going straight? That's not really what I want. So sometimes vectors in Illustrator, I mean, plugins are limited to the underlying code that Illustrator creates. And there's certain things that I've requested from, oh, it looks like, do we have... Huh. I guess I thought that had a... Oh, that's interesting. Okay, you know what? I didn't know I didn't have... I'm just going to go ahead and remove this. I'm just going to refinesse this shape. And then if I go to this tool, okay, now it's doing what I expected it to. Okay, it didn't work because I guess I didn't have a handle pulled out from there. So it just went straight because it had no information to work with. Now, what I was saying about the underlying code of Illustrator is there's certain things I've asked Astute Graphics, hey, could you do this or could you do this? And at times they come back, oh, we'd love to be able to do that, but the underlying code for Illustrator doesn't allow for that, or it defaults to this or that, and I don't understand all the aspects of coding, but I get what they're saying. It's like because the core premise of the software is coded this way, the API doesn't allow them to do it this way. So there are limitations with plugins. They can't just do whatever they want. They have to align with the development protocol the APIs come with. And so that's unfortunate. And so there are things with vectors in Illustrator that are that way because Adobe established that. They're not changing that foundation. Thus, software companies like Astute can't do certain things that would be nice if they could. Okay, so I just took the shape I created secondly and just adjusted my background art. Now, why did I do this? Because this shape, I want to be in front of this piece, and I want this piece to be in front of this back piece. That way I can handle shading a little different when I start doing detailing. We'll come up here. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I need to slightly adjust this because it needs to fall behind this top edge here. So we'll do that like that. And then I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so I have this one on top, this one on top. So that one will work. I think what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to... Maybe I shouldn't have built it that way. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I'm coloring it. But we'll trim it like that for now. Okay, let's keep moving on. I don't want to get bogged down. If this process ends up being a little too slow for building the base art, then I might stop talking, just build it out, and then create a small little time lapse just to make the total video a bit shorter. Here's a good example of the shape where wherever it comes to a point gets a point. Don't worry about the curves like that. Then you can just go grab the anchor point tool and you can just finesse the curves. I don't like anything being completely straight, especially in an illustration. Logos are different, but illustrations needs to be somewhat organic, not rigid. Okay, we'll do the other eyebrow here. Once again, wherever it comes to a point in your underlined drawing gets a point. These are easy to discern. Close the shape, grab the anchor point tool, and then you can just finesse the curves manually. Once again, we have smart guides turned on, so you might want to turn it off in case it starts wanting to snap to something. It's easier to do this without smart guides turned on. Smart guides help in certain circumstances when you're building your core base shapes for whatever your design or illustration is, but at times they'll get in the way, so toggling on and off should be expected. So that looks good. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. We'll change this. By the way, I always like using medium blue. But if you're a map maker, that's why they have all the other colors. Map makers love classifying certain things in colors, I found, because I've asked about that. Is there any way I can turn a preference on where it uses the same layer color? I do that, but they're never going to add that. Let's see. We'll call these dots. This is where I'll just build on a separate layer because I want to turn that off. I don't want to keep it. And this is where I'll just use the ellipse tool. I don't have to use a pen tool to do any of this. I just don't want them to be perfect circles. So I'm holding my Option key to do it from the center out. And then I squash them a little bit. That one's that way. And maybe on this one, we just rotate it a bit like that. Go over here. This one will be squashed. Then we'll rotate it a bit. Normally, I don't record on the day I'm recording today. Usually, I do it on the weekend. But we're headed up towards Christmas, and like it's all is quiet on the creative front right now. Nobody's working on their projects, so I decided to do it today. And we'll go up here. Maybe rotate that one a bit. Rotate that guy. Okay. And just a few more. There we go. So I'm just going to turn those off. We'll come back to that later. Let's see. What do we do next? We'll do the hands. The hands are kind of organic, so but it'll just be one profile shape. Then I'll come back later and do these little wedges to get like elbow detail or shadow or this part to separate the thumb from the finger. But to build it initially, we don't need to worry about that. So we're just going to go ahead and build this. And if I think of the clockwork method, wherever it comes point gets point, these are easy at the end. This could be a 3 o'clock. Maybe this is 6 o'clock. We might not even need that, but I'll go ahead and add it. And then where it comes to point gets a point, this will go down here like that. This will come into here, and this is where I like handling these kind of shapes because it's not a perfect circle at the end of these. So I'll put one here. Think of this as a 9 o'clock position, pull it out. We can create this whole curve by going to the 3 o'clock, and then I'll pull that out. And we'll come back and finesse those. Then this, I'm not going to worry about terminating where I want it to, because I'll handle this as part of this curve coming in here. Now, because this comes out like this, I think I do want one here just to kind of imply the knuckle. Then, like the first one we did, we'll do one there. We'll do one here. Notice I'm doing it at the angle my drawing is. So I'm keeping that in mind. Go like this. Now, this is like a circular shape. I think we can create this with the handle coming out of this one. But as we get down here, actually, I'm just going to try to make it by just going all the way to here. This can come here. We'll do this. This will come up here. This is like a 3 o'clock. Pull that out. And we can go all the way to the end and close it. So this would be the raw shape. I'd come back with the anchor point tool. This is where I would grab this just to get access to this handle. Pull that out. Come back to this one. Finesse this one up, select that, finesse this one. We don't have a handle here, and this is why I really love ghost handles, because I don't have to change anything. I can just select the path, and you'll show me a handle I can grab. Like here, here, here. It's just so much easier to just grab this, and you get access to the handle. Very intuitive. I don't know who it is, astute. Maybe it was John, their head engineer, came up with that idea, but it's brilliant. It's like, it's the way it should be. It should be easy. Like that. I think that curve looks okay. Then I'd use this ghost handle to pull out this. Oops. I'll adjust this curve. Pull this out to get the curve at the bottom of the finger, like that. Pull this one out to get the curve on this side. Then we'll select this. I'll finesse this. And then we'll use this one to get the curve on this side. And sometimes I deselect, like this looks a little wonky, so let's fix that. That looks better. And this one, we're trying to create it with just no anchors between there, and I think we can do it. I think that looks good. We'll pull, just going to pull that out. Then we'll pull this one out. That looks good. We'll select this. We need to use this handle just to get that curve looking better. And I think that looks good. Now, this is where I'll go to that plugin. Hopefully it won't create a circle again. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. And I'll just create a subtle curve. Like that. Take this, select the hand, and just go unite. That way I get a subtle curve in there. And eventually I might come back and add little rounds in there. I'm definitely going to round this up here. I'm not going to leave it that way. So I would come back, and whether I use Astute's rounding tool like that, just because I don't want that thumb dagger sharp at the end. So that's that arm. Let's create this arm over here. We'll start here, go here. We'll start here. This will come up in a curve, so that'll be made by the anchor, which would be, the handle would pull out about that far, so that tells me I probably need one right about here for the next one. And then we're going to go to a point, and we're going to round this off to get this little round shown in my drawing. Then we'll pull this one out, then it'll come to a point here. This one will go all the way to the end of the finger. That will control this round. Then we'll bring it back on the bottom. Then we'll do the same thing here, where I'll create this gap with a separate shape. And we'll do this. And we'll do this. And close the shape out. We'll go to the anchor point tool. I'll pull this out like this. I'll adjust that curve. But notice when you use the native tools, you don't get any shortcut to pull a handle out. So that's why you have to distort the path. Then the handle will automatically appear. Like on this one, if I pull it this way. But notice how it moves the corresponding path on the opposite end of this anchor point. That's why I don't really like how it's native in Illustrator. I think it's kind of obtuse and gets in the way, whereas if I use PathScribe, I can grab this path and it just limits it to the segment in between these two anchor points. Now, of course, it's going to break this, so this is no longer smooth, but they knew it would break it, so they gave a fix to when you break it, and this is the smart part about development for plugins, I think, by Astute. If I grab this and move it back, that S will appear saying it's now smooth again, let go. Now it's a smooth path again. So they fixed the problem that is caused. And that's that underlying code in Illustrator. That's just the way Illustrator is. It will break it. But they added that fix into their tool so it doesn't cause more problems, which I think is brilliant. And the reason why they were smart enough to know to do that is because John, who's their head engineer, is a designer. So he knows what creatives go through, what their pain points are, because he's done design himself. And that's why he considers those features and adds them. And they're always updating their plugins and improving them, adding more features, and not features for feature's sake like Adobe does with feature bloat or releasing half-baked new features like intertwine, grid repeats, another half-baked one, text to vector or text to clip art, as I like calling it now. All of those are just not implemented very well. They implement them extremely well at Astute because the people developing the software, one, actually use the software to create with, and two, the head engineer actually was a designer before he started doing coding and engineering. So those are two solid reasons. The problem with AI team is nobody on the team actually creates using the software they develop. And so they always get mad at me too. They get mad at me because, okay, maybe I don't have to be so honest with my feedback at times, but like I posted on the beta forum one time, that's a half-baked feature, and it offended their head engineer. And he goes, well, I don't understand why you say that. And I go, well, if you have the time, I'll explain it to you. And I told him, and then he understood what I meant. And I go, do you see what I'm saying? He goes, yeah, I do. And I go, that's all I meant. You know, I go, got your attention, so that's good. So now fix it. And then it, like I said earlier, it became a political thing. Oh, whatever. Okay. In 2019, I had a cool trip where I was invited by Adobe to go to an Adobe summit. They were putting on in New Delhi, India at the headquarters for Adobe Illustrator. I was one of 14 creatives invited over there. Once in a lifetime trip. It was awesome, super fun. They were super hospitable, put us up in a great hotel. It was a lot of fun getting to know a bunch of the engineers better. They assigned us engineers. I showed them the bugs that I had biggest issues with. And I was so kind of impressed with everything they did that I approached the Illustrator team, this 2019, And I said, hey, I've been running my business for a long time. I like it, but I'll shut down my business if you hire me to work with you for the next 4 years and we can fix all of these annoying little things that are still in Illustrator. I was seriously willing to do that. They wouldn't take me up on it. They were going, well, I think our upper management might be a little concerned with what you've said on social media about Adobe. And I go, oh, you mean like when I critique certain things? And he said, yeah. And I go, well, isn't that why you invited me over here? I mean, if I would have never said anything, you wouldn't know who I was or ever heard from me. But you did. And I have helped you guys and consulted on things. So I'm serious. I would like to help you guys do that. And anyway, didn't go anywhere. So that's okay. Oh, we'll go here. Oops, I have smart guides turned on. I think I do. Nope, I guess I don't. I'm just going to make one wedge shape. I'll just clone it. Command C, Command F. Again, if you want to use the contextual taskbar, you can just select an object like this, hit the, what's it called? Duplicate button. We'll unite these, select the arm, make a copy of it, select this, intersect. Oh, I didn't make a copy of the arm. We have to make a copy of it first. There. Now I made a copy. Then I'll intersect it. And it creates his little elbow detail. Actually, I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy this. Before I do that, bring it over here and paste it, because anytime I don't have to recreate the wheel, saves me a little time. Something like that. Select this arm. We'll copy it, select that, select the arm we copied, intersect it. Now we have that detail. Now we can go back to this one and redo that. Then I'll build the little shadow here. By the way, I guess I'll mention it in this video, because this video will be out before the one I'll be mentioning, is I have a new series I'm going to be doing in 2024. Well, actually, I have two new series. One of them I've already announced. You've seen it by now if you're watching this movie, and that is a creative challenge. And the creative challenge you can participate in, so check that out. That's one of them. The other one I'm going to be doing is one called Brand Salvage, where I'll just take local businesses, doesn't have to be local or small businesses, but anything with a bad brand identity, and I'm going to rebrand it and make it content for my channel. And then I'll try to pitch it to those companies. That's always a crapshoot. You never know if they're going to, many times they'll get offended because they've fallen in love with bad design. And as I stated in a previous movie, and sometimes this offends people. So if it offends you, I'm sorry, but just take it for what it is, a joke. Why does bad logos exist? Bad logos exist for the same reason that mothers love their ugly children. Is what I just said that to somebody years ago, and it made us both laugh, but there's a lot of truth to that. There's a great Paul Rand quote where he explains why bad design exists, continues to exist. And I think he makes an excellent point. He says the public is so used to seeing bad design that when they see new design, it makes them feel unsettled or unsure. And so they're less acceptable of new because they prefer familiar. It was something like that. I'm kind of paraphrasing the quote. A really insightful quote, and I totally agree with that. I ran into that COVID year. An agency hired me to work on a municipality branding for Deerfield Park, which is in the Chicago area. It's a small little city. And what they had was horrible. And I'm going, oh, this is going to be awesome. And it started off awesome. We showed them all these design directions, and they were leaning towards the one that I thought was the best one anyway. So I'm going, okay, this is cool. And that was January going into February. And then COVID kind of hit heavy in March. And all of a sudden, what they were excited about, they were unsure with, because they're familiar with their ugly logo and they're comfortable with it, comfortable enough to use it. That they decided they didn't want the public thinking they were wasting money during a difficult time type of thing. So fear. They let fear drive their direction, and the whole thing got canceled. And I still got paid, but and if you go to my website, you can see what we created that they could have had. When it was all said and done, they ended up just having me clean up their old artwork. It's still crap. It's just a little less craptacular, if you put it that way. So, yeah, it's like you can do everything right and things can go off the rails. There's not much you can do about it when you're dealing with the committee in this case. So it is what it is. Okay. So we're going to create these, and the easiest way to do this, anytime I'm creating stripes on a horn, I handle it this way. Well, any kind of shapes needed like this, I just find it easier to create one shape. Then I'll just grab this and I'll just distort it. You can use the anchor point tool, native in Illustrator, to do the exact same thing. Like that. That looks good. So what I'm going to do is select this, clone it, Command-C, Command-F, so I've made a copy of it. I'm going to select the horns, and I'm going to clone that too. So I have a copy of both the horns and the shape I created. We'll select these, and now I'll go intersect, and that creates these shapes. Then I'll take this one, and I'll make sure it's on front. So I'll bring to front. We'll color it so you can see it. Then I'll select my original shape, and I'll go minus front. So we have all these independent shapes because I want to color those differently. That's why I did it that way. Let's go over here. Again, we'll just go click, click, like that. Boy, that year, COVID, that project went off the rails, and another project went off the rails. It was Oregon's oldest craft brewery. Their logo was garbage. Their logo wasn't a logo. It was as if a sign company just created some artwork and slapped type on it and called it a logo type thing. And it was pretty bad. And I had branded something for one of the partners of the company before. He was an investment broker. And I branded his investment, I forget what they call it, investment portfolio thing. And he always liked it. And so he hired me. He failed to tell me they had a committee. Otherwise, I might not even have done it. I might have said, well, unless you have one person making a decision, I don't want to be part of it. Well, I wasn't informed of that. Well, I did about 22 explorations. They couldn't make up their mind about any of them. Ultimately decided to hire an interior designer in the town they were in Oregon. And he proceeded to take clip art and create a logo, and they could all agree on that they could live with that design. Why? Because it was comfortable. It was bad. It was still bad. So they went from one form of craptacular to just a new form of craptacular. And I'm not going to name the brand, but if you watch my learning logo design course, you can see the artwork, but I just changed the name in the course. But you could probably figure it out if you watch that. Okay, so we have most everything done. Let's zoom out. We have to do the wings and the legs. So at least I'm giving you stories while you're watching this. This is why I like listening to audiobooks when I work, because I can just, my mind is playing a picture in my head. It's almost like watching Netflix, but it's in my head. And it's interesting because I was talking to my youngest daughter, Alyssa, one time. We were in the car. We get into some pretty deep conversations, and she goes, so if somebody says something to you, do you picture that in your head? And I go, like what? Well, like if I told you there was this green apple and this and that, and do you see a green apple in your head? Does an image come to mind? I go, yeah, I can see that. And she goes, I can't do that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like my youngest daughter, it's like you can explain something to her visually, but she can't, even if it's a common thing, she can't picture it in her head. She says, I don't see anything and I thought, I think you have a wrong expectation of what you should see. It's not like I'm just viewing a picture perfect image in my head, but I can still kind of think of form and shape and that type of stuff. She goes, no, I can't even do that. And then I got curious no, it was Savannah, my other daughter. I was telling her about that and she got curious and she said, oh, and she defined what that's called in medical terms. There's actually a name for it. I don't remember what that name is. I didn't even know I was going to be telling this story, but I find that interesting because when I listen, because we got into audiobooks when I was talking to my daughter Alyssa, I go, so when you read, what happens? What do you see in your head? Is it like a movie in your head and you're reading and you see those scenes in your mind? And she's like, no. And I go, wow, okay. That's why I love reading. It's literally like watching a movie in my head. And when I'm done with a chapter or whatever, it's like I pause the movie until I come back to it next time. Now, sometimes for comprehension's sake, I'll re-listen to something just to remember what's going on before I continue on with the book or whatever. So we're going to do all the detailing here on the wing. All these are going to be just wedge type shapes. And we'll use a darker value of whatever the base wing color is. And we'll create all this detail. This is a simplified kind of illustration. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And she's going, so like she's asked me all these questions. Like, so when you work on a logo and you have an idea, how do you know it's going to work? And I go, well, I have a general idea in my mind. It's not perfect or completely worked out, but I have that idea, and then I start sketching it out to figure out like how it's going to take form. And I go, and there's certain shapes that I only can figure out or make associations with other things after I start drawing. I go, oh, I should do this or I should do that. And now it makes sense to me why, like, I think my youngest daughter's like really smart and stinking funny. She cracked me up this morning. We were taking her to the airport there's some report that came on the news like yesterday or whatever. My wife was asking me about it, and I had just in passing heard about it. And it's like some airline who's decided they're going to give overweight passengers an extra seat for free. And my daughter's going, like, what's up with that? It's like I'm flying to this state, and I have to check my bag. And so they're going to charge me $35 to check my bag, but they're going to give some, she said, fat ass a free seat. And then if somebody else had that seat, they're going to lose it. It's like, I'm going, don't ask me. I don't know. That's just strange. But she's so quick-witted. It's like with stuff like that. So she's also the one who I'm going to miss when she ends up moving, because her and her husband will live out of state, and she is always the one to go with me to movies my wife did not want to see. Most recent one being Godzilla -1. By the way, awesome movie. Super awesome. The story was so good. It could be up for an Academy Award. It was that good of a story. Yeah, it was a monster movie. It had Godzilla in it, but it was still a great story. The way they weaved everything together, the character development was really good. Just really good story. Great movie. So if you haven't seen it, check that out. I won't give away any spoilers. Okay. Eventually I'll have to trim those, but, well, I might as well do it. No, I don't, because again, I'm going to be lazy and just copy these and bring them over to this side and maybe reuse them again. Probably have to flip them. Oh, yeah, I can reuse those. So put this one here. Notice it's wanting to snap, so this is where I'd turn off Smart Guides again. And I think the angle on this should be changed like that. I wasn't sure what to think about Godzilla -1, but oh man, it's like as soon as it started, this subtitled. This is gonna be harder to follow along. It's such a good story. There's no problem whatsoever following along with it. It's just, you don't even think about that as you get into it. Just, it's so cool when I see a movie and you know it's a good movie when you're leaving, you're going, man, I wish I could see this again for the first time. It was so good. I'm that way with certain books. There's a book years ago. This goes back quite a ways. I'd say, 10 years ago, I read a book called The Pirate Coast, and it's historical nonfiction. And what it's about is the first, I think it'd be an awesome movie, the first covert military operation of the Marine Corps. It took place during Thomas Jefferson's administration, so early on in our history. At the time, our total military budget for the United States was $200,000. That should give you an idea. And a U.S. frigate with 1,000 Marines were in the Mediterranean. And if you've ever wondered where the pirates kind of came from, well, they came from what's called the Barbary Coast. Think modern day Tripoli. It was called the Pirate Coast, hence the name of the book. And most of the pirates were radical Islamists, and then they would capture a ship such as the U.S. frigate with 1,000 Marines, and then at the threat of death or chopping their head off or whatever, they would say, you need to convert to Islam or you're going to get killed. And that's how they grew their numbers. And this was when the War of Terror was going on, that I read it and I go, well, God, this apparently nothing's really changed. It's like the same. I had no idea about pirates. I had always thought pirates were interesting, watched all the movies and everything, but I had no idea, like, where did they fit in history and where'd they come from and all that. And it was just, once again, a fascinating tour de force of historical. The whole book uses historical documents to show communications between this person, that person, and it would make a really good movie. So if you've ever heard the Marine Corps theme, hymn is what they call it, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Well, that's what it's referencing. It's referencing the first covert military operation of the Marine Corps. And the first military operation is what the book is all about. Well, these 1,000 Marines get captured. Instead of threatening to kill them unless they convert to Islam, they instead, the king of Tripoli, the terrorist king of Tripoli, decides to send a ransom note to the president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. Well, keep in mind, this is, whatever year that was of his administration. So the early 1700s, something like that. And it took 3 months to get that message back to the president. Well, keep in mind, our budget was only $200,000 for our whole military, so we literally couldn't pay it. Yet he was asking for $1 million. It's almost like what'd they call the movie with what's his name? The comedian from Saturday Night Live. I don't remember. The evil guy won $1 million. That's what I kept thinking as reading the book. I can't remember the name of the movie. Mike Myers is in the movie. Anyway, they didn't have the budget for that. And there was a defrocked politician who used to represent the United States in France at the time. He got booted and sent home because he had some affair with some French politician's wife, and he got caught, so he lost his job. Once again, proving politics hasn't really changed too much. And he read about this U.S. frigate with 1,000 Marines being held captive, and the United States couldn't do anything. We couldn't pay for it. We didn't have the operational budget to go after it. So this disgraced politician approached Jefferson and said, "Hey, I'll supply the ship. I'll pull together all the Marines. All I want is your blessing to go rescue these Marines." And Thomas Jefferson decided to give it to him since it wasn't going to cost anything. And that's what the book's all about, is how they went after these Marines. Not only did they save all the Marines, they ended up taking down the pirate king and liberating his country from his tyranny. And the rest is history. I mean, it's a fascinating story, not just about how it came out, but everything in between, all the hardships, because halfway on the way out to Tripoli, Thomas Jefferson's advisors tell him, maybe you shouldn't have done that because, you never know how that's going to go. So like a typical politician, Thomas Jefferson, what do they call that? Plausible deniability. He decides to retract his thing, but how is he going to tell them? They didn't have modern communication then. Well, he couldn't. So he just let them keep going. But he was just going to deny everything if it all blew up or whatever. It didn't blow up. It ended up, I don't know. It's just a cool story, cool history. Just a lot of intriguing facts about it and everything. And you might want to read it. just a lot I learned about history reading that book, just because most of it is written because they had to use documentation. Those guys back then kept everything. I read a book on John Adams. He kept everything. And so they could write a book about John Adams because he journaled almost every conversation he had with other well-known politicians and stuff of his time. That's another good book, by the way, is David McCullough's book on John Adams. Okay, we're almost done here. Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Take all these wedges. Okay. Make a copy of that. Select this. Intersect it. Get that. Okay. Oh, did I forget to do that one? Oh, I did. I guess he wasn't part of the group. He's like Rudolph, left out of the reindeer games. Okay, let's take care of that guy. Okay. Okay, so we have most of the shapes. All we have left is the legs. Then we can get into the fun part, which is the coloring. I guess I'm not going to do a time lapse. I'm telling all these stories, so that's okay. You guys can skip ahead with the chapters if you want to. Okay. I'm going to do this the same way. I'm going to... Wait a minute. Let me think about this. Yeah, I'm going to do this. Just because I'm going to have some dimensionality to the toes on the monster, and it'll be easier if I build it in a way that won't be a hassle to do that. Okay. Then we'll just create, so this one, let this one start there, point, then we'll end it here. Just his toes. Oops. Go like that. Then we'll start here, go to the point. I wonder what, now that I was just thinking of a monster, like, and then that made me think of Monsters Inc., and it makes me wonder what John Lasseter's doing now, since he got booted out of Pixar. Oop, I don't think I need that. I'll delete it, then I'll just control it with this instead. Okay, so I think that'll give me what I need there, although this is looking a little weird. Let's refine that a bit. That looks better. And I'll adjust that. Not that Lasseter needs to actually work. He probably doesn't. He's probably made millions when he worked at Pixar. Okay. I think I need to adjust the angle just a little bit. So turn on Smart Guides, click on that anchor and adjust it. That looks better. Select the leg, copy it, Command C, Command F, select this wedge, intersect it, all to get that little detail. Okay. Do these really quick, and then I'm just going to move these to the other layer since move those to the dots layer. By the way, on these wedge things, you could do these with the stroke if you wanted to. Like if I just did a stroke like this, and then adjusted it with the anchor point tool like that, you could go up to, where's my profiles? Okay, here we go, and you could go to width profile 1, and notice it tapers. Then all you'd have to do is go to strokes and beef this up to however thick you want it. Like that's a little much. You could do it that way, or you could do it in half, 1.5, and get that. And then you just have to expand that. But that's a little more work than I want to do. I just find it easier sometimes just to build stuff as a shape rather than using methods like that. I'll take this again, copy it, because we can use the same one. I just won't overlap it as much. Just like that. Select, oh, actually, let's kind of bring these over. That way I don't have to recreate them. By the way, dirty little secret in illustration. I have a friend, Paul, and there's been times over the years, he's an illustrator and a designer like I am, and he'll email me and he'll go, "Hey, Vaughn, have you ever illustrated this?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you have any that you haven't used?" And I go, "Yeah." And I'll send him it and he'll use it for something he's doing. And likewise, I've done the same thing. Like I think it was a palm tree I needed one time, and he had built one, so I used that in one of my compositions. So it doesn't happen a lot, but over the years, though, when I first started in 2002 is when I started my own firm, we would compete on a lot of projects. And one time, but we didn't know that. And then one time we were just talking, catching up, and I'm going, "No way, you're working on that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, how much are you going to quote? And he's going, "Oh, I wasn't sure about that." And then he's the one that said, "Why don't we go in? Why don't we figure out a price and we both go in with the same price, and we'll escalate it more than what we'd normally do. And then whoever they go with, we'll just work on it together." That agency wouldn't need to know. That's exactly what we did. And we went in with the exact same price. I think they decided to go with me, but me and Paul worked on it together. So, that kind of works good because these agencies like to they cause a lot of, they'll say, "Well, this other person who quoted it would," and they play these head games with you. But since we went in with the same price, they're just, "Okay, well, let's just pick whoever we want." And there we go. And we end up making more money. The agency is not going to lose money. They take all the credit for it anyway. So, no, I'm not going to name names. Okay, there we go. We're almost done here. Oh, I have to create the dots for this leg too. Can't forget that. Then we can start coloring it. That looks good. Just to be safe, I'm going to save it because it would suck if my file quit right now. I'd lose everything. And I have that feature turned off. I have an autosave thing turned on my workstation, but not when I record, because then you see the spinning beach ball come up at times, and I don't want that in my recording. So, okay, there we go. Here's the monster toe. Let's get this guy worked out. I wouldn't imagine he wears socks. He would shred them. Okay, let's go ahead and do the spots. Something like that. Probably adjust that so it doesn't come too close to that edge. And then there we go. We'll unite these. Select the leg, copy it, Command-C, Command-F, select this, intersect. We'll take the spots, move them to the spot layer, like that. Go over here. What I think we got, oh, that's his hair. Okay. You know what? I'm going to put that on a separate layer too. I don't want that to get in the way as we're coloring. That'll be probably one of the last things. And this is actually, this is good because all we're going to do, this is the easy, I already showed you the feature and it's using those profiles. So we can just create a little stroke shape like this. Again, it keeps kicking into that circular tool. And I want these to be subtly curved because I think it'll look better. And different lengths because he's somewhat of a hairy monster, so we don't want it to be all replicated the same. Again, kicking into that circular. I don't know why it does that. I always forget to ask. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell Nick, okay, go to this part in the story and check it out, and you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I'm on the tool. It just shouldn't be kicking into that circular. And I know it's happened to other people too. I had somebody contact me about it, and I said, I don't know, you're going to have to ask Astute, but I've ran into yeah, there you go again. I'm not doing anything other than, I don't know, I'm not doing anything. Okay, let's do this side. Then we can start coloring it and detailing it. And that's, again, okay, Nick, what am I doing wrong? Again. Okay. Even with that little bug, it's still faster than doing it with the pen tool. Click, click, distort. Maybe deselect, click, click. Maybe it has something with not deselecting the right way. I don't know. So far, so good. Once I make sure I don't. Then if I go like this, maybe it is the selection thing. No, because I don't have anything selected there. Did it? Again. Okay. A few more. Okay, let's just do it natively here. So the only problem is you start with the pen tool, then you'd have to go to the anchor point tool, then you'd have to pull this out to get the little distortion, go back to the pen tool, click it like this. You might click it like this one. You might do this one like this. Then you can go back to the pen tool and just finesse those curves on those. I just don't want them perfect straight lines like that. Okay, so we got him hairy. We got his spots. We're going to turn both the spots and the hair off. Now we're going to start coloring it. This is where I like to make a copy of my layer. I don't want to destroy the base vectors here. So I'll go duplicate, and then we'll just go color like this. And this is where, oh, I do need a couple shapes. Okay, this is where I'm going to focus on creating all the elements that I need for wedge detail. What do I mean by that? Well, like here, I want to have a little drop shadow that will be cast upon the fur here. We'll adjust that. Like that. Then I'll select this and I'll clone it. Select this, minus front. Select this background shape. Clone that. Select this. Intersect to get that little wedge shape. So that's all I'm talking about. Another way you can do it is you can take this shape, clone this shape twice. So I just hit my keyboard shortcut F3 twice. We can go to rotate here. I can click on this, rotate it, get that little wedge shape. Make sure this one, we can fill it. Make sure you bring it to the front so it's above it. Then I can select this and I can go minus front. We're going to have some artifacts here like that. We'll delete it. Then I can take this shape, clone that shape, select this shape, and intersect to get a wedge shape like that. So a couple ways you can do it. We can do the same thing here. I'll clone this twice. And I'll start, well, I don't know if I want to go all the way up there. Maybe right about here. And I'll have it go like that. Then I'll take this one. We'll bring this one to the front. We'll fill it. Select this, minus front. And now we'll take this shape. And I'm going to clone this, Command C, Command F. But I don't need this to be perfectly fit. We already trimmed that edge. I just want it to, oh wait. No, you know what? I'm confusing myself. We need to clone this one. Add an anchor point. I just need to make sure it's large enough like that. So I select this, and we go intersect. We have that wedge shape. I'll do this one over here. And from this standpoint, I'll do it right here. And we'll rotate it. That looks fine. We'll take this, bring it to the front. Fill it with a color. Edit this shape to get the wedge shape. Take this shape, clone it. Select the wedge, intersect it, and we have what we need. This one is going to be a little different because it's going to start here. So we'll copy it. I'll change outline. Go to the rotate tool. We'll do that. Bring this to the front. Make a copy and bring to the front. Select that. Minus front. We don't need both of these, so we'll just ungroup it. Get rid of that one. Then I'll take this shape, intersect it with this shape to get the wedge we want. And then the last one, I think, we need to do something like this. Select this, clone it, select this, intersect it. Once we have this, clone this again, select this part of the fur, and I'm going to trim off that shape because we want this to look like it's on top. Then I'll take this, I'll clone this now. Go to the rotate tool just to get the wedge shape I want. Make sure this is on top. We'll fill it so you can see it. Select this and go intersect. You might have some artifacts. Just ungroup it. Select those, delete them. Now I can just take this shape, clone it. We don't need this edge to be on like that. We just want to trim off this piece, and then I'll intersect it to get that wedge shape. We have a few more to do, and the drop shadow under the eyes. I probably should have done this when I was creating the base art, but I didn't think about it. Like that. Select this, copy it, trim it, select this shape now. Again, every time I'm doing this, I'm making a copy because I don't want to lose my original shape. And trim this. We'll go over to this side. I think we got that covered there. Okay, so let's focus on the nose and eyes and just doing those little drop shadows. So I'll select this. Actually, we'll select this, the body. I'll go ahead and copy it, select the nose, intersect it so it trims the top off. Now we'll clone it, and we'll just color it blue. I'll make another clone. I'll color this one orange. I'm just going to move it down to create that kind of shadowing. I don't want this thin line going up here on the right. So I'll bring this in, kind of like that. And pardon me, but I've been talking a lot, and it gets pretty warm in here. So, so I'm going to take a drink of water. Raw and unedited. By the way, Pellegrino, you could sponsor my channel. That'd be cool. Get free water. I'd do that. Okay, take the nose, bring it to the front, select the copy of the nose, and trim it. So now we have all the shading shapes that we'll use for the nose. We'll take the eye, do the same thing, copy it a couple times. In this case, it's pretty forgiving, so I'm just going to distort this to get a nice drop shadow shape. Select the other copied one, bring it to the front. We can fill it with blue, take this shape, edit it. You might have an extra wedge, just ungroup it and delete the unneeded shape. We'll do the same thing here. Copy it twice. This is probably the easiest one. Do that, select this shape, bring it to the front. And we'll just fill it with the color. Create the wedge, grab the body, make a copy, select that wedge, intersect it. Boom. Now we have all of the physical shapes we need. Well, I still see a couple more. I actually didn't even put it in my drawing. Well, I didn't do it on the feet. We'll just do that when we build the color. I'm not going to worry about that. That's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate the color again. And I'm just going to call this build 2, just so I save it. And we'll call this one color. Get rid of that. I wish you could turn off, don't add that word copy. I know I'm making a copy. I really don't like that. I don't like that in Photoshop either. Okay, so what color am I going to make this guy? Well, I want to take him, and I kind of want him, we'll take these two shapes because we're going to, now I'm wondering about something. Yeah, we're going to take those two shapes, these shapes, and we'll take this shape. And we're just going to go ahead and unite all those together. I think for the color of this, I want it to be kind of a turquoise. And I have a turquoise in my global swatches up here. So I'll just go ahead and fill that like that. Get rid of the outline. And we might move let's do this. Let's move our sketch above. I'll select it. I'm going to go to transparency and just do multiply. Lock it. That way we can still see, oh, I just realized I might have a background here. I can't remember. Do I? Oh, I do have a background. Okay, let's just once again, raw and unedited. We'll just get rid of that and we'll lock it. So now we can see the detail as we're coloring. So I do this at times as well. So I like that color, but I want to send this to the back because I want to see the other vector shapes we have. And I think having this one on top, that's fine. We'll go ahead and we don't want to stroke, we just want to fill. And because this is on top, let's go ahead and select all of our teeth here, our mouth, the background of the mouth, and the tongue. And just for sake of clarity, we're going to bring this to the front. So I'm going to bring it to the frontmost. Then I'm going to group it. And this is where I'll use isolation mode, because I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select this. And I have certain colors. I don't name them this. They're still showing the breaks. If I hover over this one, you can see the break. That's what I want to see. But these are historically colors I've used to do certain things. This one, the inside color of a mouth. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So that looks pretty good. I'll select this. This will be white because his teeth. I'll come back and probably add some variation to that. And then we'll take this area. This will be the darkest area. Actually, on this one, we want to go to gradient. We're going to do a linear gradient. So we'll select that. It can start off dark like that, but then I want it to get to a lighter value, kind of like that. We'll go to the gradient tool and we'll adjust this like this. And that's just to I want it to be dark at the top because it's coming from behind the front areas, lips, and everything. Then we'll select this. We had done an outline by accident on that. We want to turn this to the darkest color because that's where it's going down into his throat of sorts. And then we can take this shape. We can fill this with a tongue color, kind of like that. I think that'll look fine. And I'm just going to focus on the base coloring right now, and then I'll come back and do some of the detailing. I just want to work out all the coloring. I think that looks pretty good. And I do that because it's nice to have isolation mode so you don't move things as you're going along. I think it just helps. So we'll go ahead and create a group with that wing. We'll create a group with this wing. We'll take both of those and we'll just paste them behind the other color. We don't need to worry about that. We'll come up here. We're going to select these elements on the nose and we'll bring these to the front. Select the nose, bring those to the front, select the drop shadow, and then we'll group them. So now that's all one series. We'll take these two shapes, make sure these are on the front. Select this, bring it to the front, select the eyeball, bring it to the front, and the shadows behind it so we can group those. I'm just putting everything in their proper hierarchy. So I'm going to bring this to the front or the top. All I'm doing is I'm doing a keyboard shortcut. So I'm going arrange, bring to front, but I'm just hitting the F5 key. So that's my keyboard shortcut. So it brings it to the topmost of every element on my artboard. Then I select the eye and I hit F5 again. It brings it to the topmost. Then I select the drop shadow. Then I go Command G and group it. That way I can isolate these on their own. And we're going to take this eye. We're going to fill it with white like that. And then you're going, well, the background, it kind of disappears. It does. So we're going to deal with that. We're going to go here and we're going to click on radial gradient. Oops, not on make sure you're on the fill. We'll go radial gradient and we'll keep white in the middle. And then we're going to go to this lightest blue here and I'm going to put it on the outskirts. Like that. Click on the gradient tool, and this is how you can control it. We don't want it to be a perfect circle, so we'll go like this. And you can reposition it if you think you should. In this case, I think it needs to be a little bigger. and we'll rotate it just a bit. And now this is what we'll control. I'm going to push it out until this gradient is just kind of creating a kind of soft rim of color coming. And this is the part of this tool I really don't like. It's like they changed it. It was easier to do these editing on the old version of the tool, in my opinion, like that. And the reason why I'm doing this is just so we get some of definition on the edge of this eyeball. It's a white eyeball, but you want to see it when it falls on a light colored, or in this case, a white background. So I just wanted to point that out. We're going to go here. I'm going to use a process black. So 40, 40, and actually this one, 40, 20, 20, and 100. So that'll be fill of black. We'll get rid of the outline. This will be white, no stroke. And we'll use a blue, kind of somewhat of a darker blue, but when it's on black, it doesn't look so dark. It's kind of a reflective color of sorts, like that. The tongue, the nose, maybe no outline. Let's try a green, maybe lighter. That looks pretty good. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do on the shadow color, and we'll create a shading value. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up graphic styles and bring it up here. And I have some default graphic styles from other projects that I usually leave in certain files if I'm going to use it as the starting point for an illustration. But if I click into this isolation mode, grab this eyeball, I'm just going to drop it over here, and it creates a graphic style now. And then I can go into this eyeball, select this, click on that, and it applies that same kind of styling to that eye. Is it perfect? No. This is where you want to click on, well, make sure you have the shape selected. You want to click on the gradient tool, and then if you want to, you can adjust it. So if I hover over it, you can see it's kind of wider than it really needs to be. And this is where you could pull this in. Then you can go here and expand it up so it fits that shape a little more. You could adjust this and pull that out like that. But it gives you a starting position, so it makes the process go a little faster. So I like to select things. If I have the color applied somewhere else, I'll just sample that. So we'll apply that. And I just realized I think it's applying a gray since we have, we're in isolation mode. Yeah, it did. So we're going to go there, white, and we'll apply the blue. So we have that in there. We're going to kind of have fun with his horns. We'll add, this is where we'll add more colors. So we'll have red in the bottom. Maybe we have green. Green's not, I don't know about green. Maybe, oops, yellow. I like yellow. And then let's see, we'll go, maybe we use the base color. And then maybe green here. Maybe we go back to red. Or maybe this is green. Oh, I know. We'll make this, because I think I'll make his appendages purple, like his arms and legs. So maybe we allude to purple. I don't know. I might change this purple, but let's, oops. Want to do the fill. Purple. Turquoise goes with purple, so I don't mind that. That'll work. And then over here, I just don't want to do the exact same order. So maybe we go, maybe we put purple down here, and we go yellow. Then we go blue. Maybe this is blue. And yellow up there. Maybe we switch these around. There. I think that's good. That works. His eyebrows. We'll make his eyebrows a darker value of this. So let's select the turquoise we're using. Click out of isolation mode. This is the base turquoise his body is. So we're just going to create a new custom color. I'm going to add black to this, so it gets darker. So maybe 45 black. And then we'll add that into our colors. Click into it, change it to global. We'll see what these look like if we just, they could be black now that I'm thinking about it. Black's not bad. Let's see what the dark color looks like. I'm going to turn off my sketch for a second. That's not bad either. I don't mind that. I might change my mind, but I'll leave it on that. Oh, I just realized this section, I can kind of go ahead and show you what I'm going to, now that I think about it, I think I need to edit this shape because it doesn't cover up to here. So what I'm going to do is just pull this up and then just adjust this again. Doesn't matter about this shape since it's not part of that shape. That way it covers what I want to do with some detailing. So like, for instance, on this shape, I want this to be linear gradient, no outline. Let's zoom out so you can actually see this, what's going on. Like this, like that. And we're going to go ahead and use this dark turquoise color. Make sure we're on the fill. Drop that into here. And then we're going to go to the base color, light turquoise, to have it shade to. But we're going to go to 0 opacity here. So it's just fading from dark to light. And I found that works better than trying to use white with 0 because it'll show up or whatever. It just doesn't look as good. And over the years, I've just found this works really well. Now, this isn't going to be high, so we'll adjust it like this. I might bring this down a little bit, then bring this up like that. We'll copy this, select the mouth, and we'll go Command B and we'll paste behind. So if I turn off our sketch, you can see how it's creating that illusion of depth. That's kind of what I wanted. And I'll come back and I'll put a thin kind of wedge shape here just to make that more pronounced. Like that. We're going to take, let me think about this for a second. Okay, I'm going to create these wedge shapes and then I'll fuse together the feet here. Click this, make a wedge shape, take the extra one I made a copy of, bring that to the front, select that, and using Pascribe, or where did I put it? Where did I put Pascribe? Now I can't find Pascribe. Did I cover it here? No. What did I do with it? Okay, well, we'll just do this. I do this all the time when I'm working on my machine. I'll go reset, and it'll put everything back where it's supposed to be. There's Pascribe. I don't know where it went. So with those two selected, we'll go minus front. Then we'll ungroup because we don't need the big shape on the right. We'll get rid of that. And then this shape, we'll select this toe, make a copy of it, select the wedge, and intersect to get the final shape needed. We'll take this one and we'll make a wedge shape with that. Take the other copy, bring it to the front, select this shape, minus front. Again, you're going to have artifacts at times when you do shape building. Just deselect, delete, no biggie. Take this, clone it, select the wedge, and intersect to get the final shape. Now that we have those, we can select everything but this wedge shape. here on the foot and unite it. And so that becomes the base of our foot. We can select the wedges, the knee detail, bring it to the front, select this, and actually, now that I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and build the shadow like this. Then I can adjust it so as if his body is casting a shadow on his leg. Might be something like that. So we'll select this, make a copy of it, select this shape, intersect it. Now we have everything for this foot. We can group it. We can go to this one. We're going to do the exact same thing. Make 2 copies of that. Make 2 copies of this. Go to the rotate. Rotate to get the wedge we want. Select this. Bring it to the front. We can color it. And minus front. Unselect. Get rid of what we don't need. Select this shape, make a copy, select the wedge, intersect it to get the final shape. Take this, rotate it to determine the wedge shape. Select the other copy shape we created, bring that to the front. Minus front, ungroup it, get rid of the artifacts, select this part of the foot, make a copy, intersect. You get that. We can take all the toe shapes and the base of the foot, intersect all those together. It looks like we had an extra one. Get rid of that. Select the knee, select this detail, bring that to the front. Then we'll select here and we'll do a drop shadow on this leg like we did on the other one. And adjust our curves to get that cast shadow effect. Select the leg, make a copy of it, select this shape, intersect it. Now we have all these. Group it. So now we can select both of these, copy, select the base of the artwork and go Command B to paste behind. And we can go ahead and color those. I think we'll use the same color that we used in the top here. Now, this is where I think there's an issue with Illustrator that I want to demonstrate, and that is I like this purple, so I'm going to sample this with the eyedropper. And it samples purple. Maybe it did work. Oh, okay, it worked. Wow, did they fix that? Because for years, if you had some, even if it is locked, it would sample from that layer since it's above it. In this case, it's not. So maybe they fixed it. Okay, I'll give that to them. If they fix that, that's awesome because it didn't always behave that way. So that's really cool. Okay, so I'm not sure about the tonal value of the legs. Well, let's turn off the sketch and make a judgment. I think they might be a little too dark. So I'm going to select these. We'll pull this out. We don't need to see. We want to see all the color. This palette doesn't need to be so tall. We'll do that. And I'll just readjust. Oh, I like that. It's a little, maybe even paler. I might like that even better. Now, since that's the base color, let's go ahead and make a shading value. So many times with the shading value, we're going to use multiply and we're going to use opacity to adjust the value. So right now this says 45, 49. So I like to knock it in half. So we'll go about, it could be 24. It doesn't have to be perfectly in half. And if this is 50, this would be about 25, like that. So we've muted it even more. Now we're going to add black to it. Think traditional pigments like you're painting. You're adding black to make it darker. You know, so we might go 20 here. This will become our shading value. Now we can drag and drop it into our palette. We can double click, turn it to global. And now we can, let's zoom in on one foot, and then whatever we do here, we'll apply it to the other foot. We'll select this. We can fill it with that, get rid of the outline. And you're going, well, Vaughn, that doesn't look great. That's because we need to apply multiply as a blend mode. Now it looks really good as a shadow. It's a little too dark. Let's knock it down to about 80. Take 20% off of that. Maybe even more. Maybe 65. Like that. That looks pretty good. We can see what the other ones look like using that same value. So we'll just select these, use the eyedropper, sample that, and then you can determine if you want it darker or lighter value of hue. I think those look pretty good. I want them to be visible. I don't want them to be subtle. So I think that'll look good. Now that we have that, we can just go into isolation mode here, drag select everything but the foot, use the eyedropper and just sample that color. And so that's how you can speed things up. So I think that looks pretty good. Now that I'm thinking about it, so I don't forget, this little, I don't know, let's call it a goatee that he has here. We're going to clone this and we'll go back to our graphic styles and I'll just apply an outline so I can see what I'm doing, maybe a thinner one. And I'll clone it again. Then I'm going to go to rotate, snap to this one, and rotate it to get kind of a wedge shape going on this as well. I'll make it a little beefier up here like that. And then this original shape, I'll copy it, Command C, Command F, and we'll fill it because I want this on top. So I can select this shape and we'll go Pathfinder and I go minus front. Again, we'll ungroup it because all we want is this shape. We don't need all those. And then I'll do the same thing on the right. I'll clone this shape, go to the rotate tool, click on that anchor for the positioning, rotate it. I'll go into this shape. I'll adjust this one too, just to make it a little beefier so it's not so thin on top. Take our original shape, bring this to the front. We'll fill it. Nope, we colored the outline, but instead we'll go fill, select this shape, minus front, ungroup it, deselect the shape we want to keep, toss all those. And now on these shapes, we can just select the body. We'll make a copy of that twice, 1, 2. We'll intersect it with that one. We'll intersect it with this one. And then we can take these shapes and actually, did we establish a shading? Oh, I think I did. Oh, no. That's not, we just made a dark hue of the turquoise. So let's make a shading value because we need to start using this here. So we'll go to the color palette, we'll click into CMYK. This is 75, so we'll go half of that, which is about, I don't know, 37 or so. Oops, I have the body. We don't want to do that. We'll go 37, maybe 36, something like that. Half a yellow, we'll go 16 or so. So again, a diminished value of the base value of the body, and then we're going to add black to it. So we'll go to 20. I think that'll work. We'll drag this into here, double click, set for global. And now we can go into these shapes. Actually, let's focus on the one by his goatee first, these two. And we'll color those, that shading value, but again, doesn't look that great until we go to transparency, go to multiply, and apply multiply to those. Then we can adjust the opacity to adjust the value if we want it lighter than what it's showing here. If you wanted it darker, you go back into the color and add a little more black. If you wanted to remove some of the blue or yellow, you could do that as well. That's how you adjust these values. But on this case, I think on this one, we'll try 65 since it worked on the legs. Oops. Hope if I type it in right. 65. Like that. And I think that looks pretty good. I like that. Do I have an outline on that? No. You know what? I almost think it has too much blue in it. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to desaturate the blue to 20. Then I can test it by going like this. It's not a huge difference, but that's okay. But I'm going to bump up the black. Oh, I like that better. So that did help doing that. So that's how I'd adjust stuff like this. We can go ahead and select these little wedges that are part of his body as well. We can sample this color and apply them to those here. This one and this one. Make sure you make those sound effects and apply them there. That looks pretty good. Now let's go to his eyes, and we'll go under his eyes here, and we'll sample that color. That looks cool. I don't think I want to, under his nose, we'll do that color. I like that. I don't think I want to do this. I want that to be more pronounced, so I think I'm going to go with the dark teal color that we're going with in the eyebrows. And I'm still not sure about the nose color. Maybe it's, I don't know, the type of green. A little too lime. Although this one doesn't look lime-ish enough. So maybe we just knock it down to 50. Maybe this could go down to 90. I like that. Now that we did that, we're going to take the base color. We'll make a shading value for this. We'll go 25, 24 here is fine. 45, we'll go 44. We'll add 20% black. Add that. Drag it in, double click, change to global. And then we'll click into our isolation mode on the nose, select all the creases on the nose. We'll color those green. And we're going to go to transparency, multiply, and then we can adjust the value here. We'll try 50. No, not enough. We'll just use the same one we'd use on the other ones. 65. And those look pretty good. I think what I'm going to do, well, I'll come back to that. I might do it. Okay, we'll select the arms, copy them. I guess this one was in a isolation mode. Let's make that isolation mode and select this. Oh, we didn't have that one either. Okay. Okay, then we'll take both arms, copy them, paste them behind the body. Now that we have these, I want these appendages to be the same as the legs, so we can just sample that color. We can just go in here, select the detail on the hand, go to the eyedropper, sample those colors, go over here, double click into this one, just select the detail. Oops, don't want to double click into that. Select all the shapes, the detail here, sample the shadow color. Click out. That looks pretty good. So we don't have a whole lot more to do. This is where I like to set something aside, come back to it later, and determine if I want to add something else. There's a few things that come to mind. I think we need to adjust. I'm not so sure about this color. I think it should be just a little lighter. I like that. And I'm going to do something. Well, let's just try it on one, and then if we like it, we can apply it to the other one. We'll double click into here. I'm going to select this shape, and I'm going to duplicate it, and you can use the contextual taskbar if you want to, just so we can see what we're doing. We're going to do a linear gradient. Go to the gradient tool. Actually, now that I think about it, what I want to do is I want to go graphic style, just so I can see what I'm doing. Then let's go ahead and snap on this one. I don't want the full circle. I only want half of it, like this. Pathfinder, intersect, that's fine. Then we'll fill it with this gradient, get rid of the outline. We'll adjust this gradient. Make sure you're on fill or it won't show up on the object. Then rotate it. Bring it down like this, and then this color, what color are we using? Now that I'm thinking about it, this needs to be okay, so we have our shape. Go to the gradient. We're going to make sure we're using our process black. There, that's why I didn't have the process black. So it was looking, if you don't use a process black or an RGB black for that matter, if you're working in RGB mode, your gradients aren't going to look as good. They won't look butter smooth. They'll look kind of wonky, kind of truncated in terms of the gradient. Now that I know I'm using this, which is 40% cyan, I'm going to select this. Instead of white, we're going to use a dark blue like this. Maybe even one that's a little lighter. We'll use a lighter blue. That might be a little too light. I might have to go in between the two. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so I'll take this, I'll copy it, and I'm just going to select these two shapes and paste behind. So you can see I just did like a reflective a reflective type of light source. And I might go a little lighter with this color like this. So I'm just going to take these shapes, copy them, and we're going to back out of this isolation mode, go to the other eye, and we're in that isolation mode now, and I'm going to paste this. I'm going to group it. I'm going to select this eye pupil, and I'll just align this to this so it's centered the exact same way. It's a different size. That's okay. So we're just going to scale it down and scale it back up until it snaps. So now I know it's aligned with the other's pupil size. So I'll go ahead and ungroup it, deselect these two shapes, get rid of this one, this shape, and this shape. I'll copy these two shapes. I'll paste behind, get rid of this front one, and now we have the same detail on the other side. I think that it makes his eyes more engaging, I think. So I kind of like that. That looks good. Let's focus on some of their detail, and then I might get it to a point where I have all the flat work done, and then what I'll do is I'm going to sit on it, because I literally like to sit on something like this for an hour or so, then come back to it later and decide what could improve it. And I might do that. I am editing it technically, but I'm telling you what I'm doing. So I'm not trying to fool you guys. I'm just telling you how I work. Okay, so now we're going to color these. I think these need to be kind of a gold color. That looks good. Get rid of the outline. Oop, I colored everything gold. Okay, I just want this not to have an outline like that. And then if we're using this as our base color, you can see I have some darker values here, but nothing I can use for the shading. So we'll go create one, and we'll go probably 25 on this, and I'll just knock this down to 25 like this, and yellow to half like that. So very muted, like we've done for the other values, the other hues, that is. And then we can click into isolation mode. I can select all of these minus the wing shape itself, fill these with the shading value, and then go to transparency, go to blend mode. And those look pretty good, but I think they're too dark. We might even adjust the value or the specific break a bit as well, but we'll see. We'll go let's go 60. That doesn't look bad. I don't mind that. But maybe we go a little lighter on these. Maybe these are just 40. Oh, I don't have this guy as part of it. So let's go ahead and unite those. Now we'll go back here and we'll hit 40. I like that. That looks pretty good. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think we need to have a shadow shape on these as well, or a cast shadow, that is. So we'll go here, put one here, and might put one here, like that. I don't want it filled. We just need to be able to see the, oops, go to a thinner, there we go. I'll copy that, I'll go into isolation mode, paste it into place, and then I'll adjust these just to get that nice cast shadow effect going. Like that. We'll select the wing, make a copy of the wing, select this shape, and intersect it with Pathfinder. Then we'll try this value. That's not bad. Maybe we just go down 50. Like that. See what that looks like. I like that. I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm not going to use the wing on this side. I'm not that lazy. You never want to replicate like that. Let's say you're doing a forest. You wouldn't want to create one tree and duplicate it like how many ever times create a forest. That looks silly. So take the time to create. In this case, it's the same type of wing, but it looks better if it's not identical to, you know, what we had on the other side. But you can speed up your time by sampling colors off of the one you already figured out. All we have to do now, we'll double click into this and we'll create the shape for the cast shadow. So go here, put one here, and something about there, like that. Oops, accidentally opened a palette. That's something I haven't really showed you in Astute's plugins, is their dynamic shapes tool, which is really cool. Illustrator's kind of ripped off some of those features, but they had it or Astute had it in Illustrator years before Adobe decided, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, let's implement it, but just not do it as in such an intuitive way. Okay, there we go. That looks good. We can get rid of that. I just use that to sample it. Let's go. Oh, I forgot a wedge shape. I just realized. Actually, two wedge shapes. So I'm going to go here, and I will try using this tool again. Hopefully it doesn't create the circle like it's been doing. Go like this. And we'll create that. Click here. Create a wedge shape there. Switch to the pen tool. Combine it. That's good. Go into isolation mode. Select this. Copy it. Select this shape. Intersect shape like that. Sample the color we're using. That looks good. Let's go over this side because I realized I don't have one here. So we'll go into isolation mode. And I'm just going to create one enough to create an overlap illusion with this finger and the thumb, like that. Select the arm, copy it, select the wedge shape we created, intersect it, sample the shading color we have to get that. And I think that's all we really needed, just to add a little more interest into those areas. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, I know we don't have the spots, so we'll do the spots. Spots will be fun. The hair, we still need to do that. But knowing that, oh, you know what? I think I know what. Actually, let's do the spots because there's something I'm thinking I want to do. Oops, that's the refined sketch. There's the spots. we'll just select all the spots. I don't want the spots down. Let's turn this off. I don't want these down there, just the top ones. Intersect them. And on all of these, I think I want this to be kind of the same yellow color, like that. So we'll select this. We'll copy the base of the figure's body, select this, and go intersect. That'll trim everything to align. I think that looks pretty good. But one thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to go in here and do this first. I'm going to make a copy of this. And then I'm going to sample this, copy it, and paste behind. I just think maybe having a little shading just to imply there's depth to the eye socket. I think that kind of looks good there. And then what I want to do is I want to grab the body and I want to make a copy of it. And then I want to go to path and I want to go offset. And I'm going to go maybe -2. Let's see what that does. Not quite far enough. Maybe 3. Maybe 3.5. I'm kind of nitpicking here. Like that. Let's go to graphic styles. We'll select an outline. Wait a minute. What happened to my... Oh, that's right. We have the original shape that we offset. Get rid of that. Like that. Now I'm going to figure out something like that. Select that inset shape we did. And we'll go Pathfinder and we'll go like that. And now we're going to apply, not to the stroke, but to the fill, a gradient. And on this gradient, we'll go to the gradient palette, and we want it to go white, and we want it to go to the base color. So we'll drop that in, but we want the base color to be 0 alpha. This is going to be kind of a highlight. We'll select the gradient tool, then we'll adjust the size and everything, reposition it, rotate it, kind of like that. And this is how we can control. It needs to go down a little further. Like that. And we can even click on this and give this opacity. Right now it's 100. I don't think we want that. I think maybe 60 we'll try first. That looks pretty good. But I'm going to take the spots, copy them, paste them behind the highlight, because notice it helps bring that to life. But we're going to select the spots and the highlight, copy both of them, and we're going to paste it behind everything that should be on top of it. So we'll select those items here, and we'll even select this, and we'll go Command B to paste those items in place right behind it like that. Oh, you know what I did goof up on? Let's go ahead and do this. We'll copy this, and I'm going to go paste behind on the nose because I want it to affect the nose like that. And that's, you know, we might adjust this. So right now we have 60, so you could go in, maybe you make it a little lighter, like 40. That looks probably a little better. But I think there's other details I want to do, like I want to put, well, we can do that now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this aside. Then I'll come back and I'll record another movie where I go over just a few other details I added. I didn't, but we need to finish the spots. We need to finish the hair. And I'm going to do one more little bit of detailing around the mouth. I'm going to go back and put drop shadows on the teeth just to give them volume and form, but I'm not going to bother to walk through that right now. That'll be part of the follow-up. So let's focus on the mouth now. I'm just going to double-click into it, select the mouth, make a copy of that, and then I'm going to go to Graphic Styles, and we'll just color it so it's an outline like that. I'll make a copy of that outline shape. And all I'm going to do is move it down. So what I'm doing is I'm going to create a highlight, and we don't need to worry about the top. So I'm just pulling these up. And then I can adjust it because I want the highlight to kind of scale into the bottom thickness, or taper in, I guess would be a better way to say it, like that. This one probably could come, oops, not that one. We need this one. This one can come in a little more. Something like that. That's fine. Then I'll select this first shape. We'll go ahead and fill this, and we'll bring it to the front. By the way, I have a F5 key to do that. It's part of my keyboard shortcuts, so you might want to watch that movie. Anything you do on a routine basis, and I'm always moving shapes in front or behind, it just speeds it up, having a keyboard shortcut. It's muscle memory after all these years, so I just know to hit F5. I don't even think about it. Actually, if I try to think about it at times, okay, what was I trying to do? It's like, so it's really nice when you can turn something into muscle memory. It makes the workflow go so much faster. So we're going to minus front this to create that sliver again. You're going to have extra shapes at times. So just deselect after ungrouping, delete them. And on this one, all I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it the base color. We'll get rid of the outline. But because we're using global colors, we'll go to the color palette. You can see it's the base color, and I'm just going to do a tint. So I'm going to do a 60% tint, and we'll click out. And that's not bad. I think it's a little too bright. So we'll go a little darker, maybe 75%, just so it's a little more subtle. We just want to imply a highlight there. I think that looks okay. I'd probably do the same thing at the top here, but I won't do it right now, where I'll put a subtle shadow so it's the bottom part of his lip. And then that way, when I add, the same way I did the shadowing on the teeth, I'll go back and do that on the teeth, or on the legs. I'll do that on the teeth. Put some detailing on the tongue because it is further back in the mouth where there's not a light hitting it. But let's finish up the spots, finish up the hair, and then we'll call it good, and then I'll do a follow-up. So next thing is the spots on the leg. So I'm just going to take those and unite them for that leg, like that. And then I'll go over here, take the spots on this leg and unite them. Take this one. Copy. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and go into isolation mode and paste those. We'll select this, copy it, go into isolation mode, and we'll paste those. Select the leg shape itself, make a copy of it, select the spots, intersect it. This is where we'll adjust the color. So we'll go white, but obviously we don't want it 100% white. So we're going to try 20%. I want it to interact with the colors underneath. I think that's good, but I'm going to oops. Let's see. I'm going to select this, copy them, select the shading, and I'm going to paste it behind because I want those dots to be on his leg, but I don't want him to draw a lot of attention. That might be a little too dark. So let's go 15% maybe. I think that's fine. Then we can go to this leg. Click into it, select this leg shape, copy it, intersect it with these. Then we're just going to sample the same white we did on the other leg, copy them, paste them behind the detail on the leg, and I think that looks pretty good. And I might add, now that I'm looking at that, I'll probably go back and I'll add some spots, almost like monster liver spots on his arms. But the last thing we need to do is the hair. So let's go back and we'll click on this. I realized I didn't name this layer, so let's call it hair. And I'm just going to go ahead and lock the layer so I can select all these without selecting any image on the other layer. And on all of these, we're going to go to that dark teal color we made, and we'll just color all these. And then I'll zoom in. And with all of them selected, this is a 1 point. So let's go to uniform. We'll go to width profile 1. So it tapers at both ends. Then we'll go up to stroke and we'll just adjust these strokes just to get a nice value. Oops, that's a little too much. That looks pretty good. And I almost think maybe we do it the shading. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to group these like that. And let's go back to layers, unlock this layer, make sure. Okay, so that's the color. So let's go ahead and select all of our hair. We'll color it this color. And what did we set this for? 65% and multiply. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll go multiply, and then we'll go 65%. So you can see all the hair interacting. And I think the hair needs to be maybe just a little darker. So we'll go 70, like that. So I think that looks pretty good. But this is how I bring to life a sketch like this. There's a few other things I'm thinking about as I'm looking at this. I'm probably going to think of more, but this is when I set something aside. And so that's what I'm going to do. We'll end it at this point, but we will be back. And then I'll show you from this point, and then I'll show you a comparative on some other detailing just to further bring it to life. And we'll do that for you. That'll be in just a few seconds. Okay, so now I want to share with you the final artwork on this monster illustration. Now we've spent what you've seen in the first part. This is the second part. The first part was about 2 hours and 30 minutes. And so I wasn't sure how much longer it'd take me. And I wanted to set it aside because when I actually work, do projects, whether it's logo design, whether it's illustration, etc., I get to a point and then I like to just set it aside, focus on something completely different or something else altogether, and then come back to it with fresh eyes and decide what it still needs. And that's what I did with this illustration. So this, as you see here, is where I left it off in terms of coloring and doing detail. And what I want to show you next is all the detail I added to it. So if you look at it as is, and I turn on this new layer for the final artwork, you can see all the changes. It doesn't change fundamentally. It's the shape and everything and colors are still the same. I've just added a lot more detail. So as I toggle on and off, you can see the detail that I've added here. One big area, in my opinion, is the mouth. So this is where we left it. The teeth are all flat. The tongue is flat. We have all the base colors in place. And then I went back in and I detailed, added some nice little cast shadows to give some volume to the teeth, added a highlight on the bottom of the lip and a shadow at the top of the lip. And this just kind of overall improves it. Gave a highlight on the ridges on the nose. So before we just had the dark, so I added the light, added some spots in there as well, just to bring a little bit of kind of faux texture, added some shading on the bottom of the nose. And then on the eyes, we changed this up just a little bit. I went back in and I added a reflective shadowing kind of on the bottom of the top part of the eye, and added this shadow in here and put a kind of a hot spot here. So we give it a sense of that it's kind of wet of sorts. And then up here, we went ahead and added some shading on the horns, both on the left and on the right over here, and created the wings. You saw the base shapes of the wings with the base shapes for the details. Went in, added some highlights on that just to give it a little more volume. Added a drop shadow under the character, Gaussian blurred that just a little bit, and added a little bit of spots on the top of his feet as well. So we didn't fundamentally change anything. It just gave me time to look at it and figure out what was going to add that little bit of extra detail I wanted to. So this is where we ended the first part, and then this is the final art we ended up with. So hope that explains it. Now, it took 2.5 hours to create the initial art. that you saw. And to add this additional detail to the coloring took about, I'd say, 45 minutes. I had waited about the same amount of time, almost an hour, and then it took me 45 minutes to add on to it to get to this final art. One thing I will point out is here's a spot detail. So if you look at it without that, that doesn't look bad. But look how much better just having that subtle little shading behind all those shapes on top of his body really adds to it. So I hope you enjoyed this. As with all of my over-the-shoulder vector building videos on People Love, you can access the exercise files for free. So I encourage you to download those using the link in the description below and try to build this yourself. You don't have to color it the way I do. Choose to color it however you want. And if you do that, share it with me. Show me how you did. I want to take a look at it. I'd like to see that. Once again, a big thank you to those who are channel members. It helps me fund the time I have to invest to create content for my YouTube channel. And I really appreciate it. If you can share a link to my channel with your friends, that's great. If you can like it, all those things in some way help the algorithm to improve the traffic on my channel. So any of that you can do, I'd really appreciate it. And once again, until next time, thank you for watching. And I hope what I shared in this video will help you to improve your own creative process.